All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today with Pursuit of Purpose. And we appreciate any of you who are joining us for our very first ever live show. This is called What Are We Doing? I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And we got a great guest with us today. We've got Kenneth Garner, a.k.a. DJ Mann TV, right?
That's right.
Well, guys, the topic of discussion for the day, and we hope some of you will chime in and engage with us, but the topic of discussion is the holiday season and how it's been perverted and manipulated to become a overpressured, overburdened, and extraordinarily depressing time of year. And unnaturally so, because so much of our commercial industry and marketing has been directed towards us to make us feel obligated to purchase things, to buy things, to overspend at the holiday season, to run up credit cards and deny bills and really live in a very immature way and get ourselves in a bind, all for the sake of making other people feel appreciated according to the commercialization of the holidays.
Right.
So what are y'all's thoughts on that?
I perfectly agree. It took me a while to figure it out, but when my children were young, now mind you, they're 20s and olders now, but when they were young, I can remember them sitting in front of the TV watching commercials and, oh, I want that. Oh, I want, and everything. And of course, I'm being older, was smart enough to realize that is just, perfectly placed products, perfectly played with. It's all been scripted and orchestrated to promote an experience that my child now is beginning to believe they're not going to be happy if they don't get that.
That's right.
And I'm thinking, this is so. If I'm talking to a parent out there, my daughter was probably 8 going on 9. And I said, you know what? No time like the present. I said, let me tell you what they're doing there. And I explained to her how commercials work, how you got this whole production crew and these good looking kids, and they've probably been playing with that toy for a month to get it down just right and all that. And I said, so they're kind of playing with it. I'm not saying it wouldn't be fun. I'm just saying, don't buy in to what they're selling just because they're making it look like you can't live without it. And she's like, oh, now that was at 8.
Yeah.
Now, so we had the conversation again at 10 and 12, but to confront some of that trend, here's the sad part. We're adults. We're men in our 40s plus, and we see people our age that still buy into that because now they're thinking, if I don't get that from my kid's going to be the one that's left out, deprived, and all that. And I'm thinking, you're still buying that? That was my take on it.
Happiness depends on a purchase.
Happiness depends on a purchase.
What you think about that?
Man, so much. First off, I want to apologize to the viewers out there because I didn't know that I was going to be on the podcast today. And here I go with my dark self wearing black.
Oh, stop it.
In the shadow. So I'm looking like a shadow over here, man. So I apologize to y'all. All y'all see is a shadow.
You want me to crank the lights up a little bit?
He set me up, man. But to answer
it's a conspiracy for all you out there.
That's right.
So to answer the question, man, I do think it's purposely done. It's propaganda, and I think it's done well. I think big corporations do it to draw in the money, and they play on your psyche and your emotions, and they do it well. And they really could care less about the effect of it all. It's like, man, as long as they get their bottom line, which is the dollar, it is what it is. And how it affects you, I really could care less. That's their thoughts. Like, right. I really could care less. Just give me what I need so I can do the same thing, because they're going to go and spend it. It's just they have more to spend. But my thing is, I think it's a bigger reflection of where we are as a society. We got to stop paying attention to so much stuff, man. That's our issue. We pay attention. You shouldn't want to know everything. You shouldn't want to see every doggone thing. Everything ain't meant for you. Just because it's there doesn't mean that you have to see it, engage in it, and partake in it. And you got to understand, a lot of these things that they're advertising for Christmas, they're going to be on sale in January. They're going to be on sale in February. You're not missing nothing.
Right.
It's going to be there.
And the truth is, about most of that stuff, as soon as you get it in your hands, or as soon as your kid gets it in their hands, about 5 minutes later, they're done with it.
Yeah.
And they're playing with the box that it came in.
Yeah.
I got a story for you, man. There was a cartoon out there called Wild Wild Wubsy. I don't know if y'all remember it, but I had my son, man. It was a little kid. He probably like 3 or 4, and he was always wanting this Wild Wild Wubsy toy. So I go and get him the most Wild Wild Wubsiest toy there is. So I got the one that, man, he got the Wild Wild Wubsy ball in his hand, and the ball spins and makes him go across the floor and stuff. I'm like, man, he gonna be excited about this. He got it out the package, and when we pressed the start button, and it went, he got scared and would not play with it. He never played with that, man. And when he finally wasn't scared of it, which was like a year or so later, he only used it as something to throw around. It was never used for what it was supposed to be used for.
He repurposed it.
He repurposed
it.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's a good story.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how many times have you bought things and the packaging or the box been the more important toy for your kids? It happened. I mean, it happened when I was a kid.
Yeah.
There wasn't much better than a big box.
Right.
I didn't care about as much the toys and things. I wanted my parents to get a new appliance so I could have the box that it came in and make a clubhouse or something, you know?
I remember that when we had bigger purchases, and I'm talking some of them even appliances, and it's a clubhouse.
Oh,
and
yeah,
my living room
I
became a
remember that.
clubhouse.
Right.
And I'd crawl in there and look, and she's drawing on the wall. I mean, it looked like a lot of fun, but it wasn't anything of an item. It was just the packaging.
Man, so as a kid, I grew up watching Ninja Turtles. So the biggest thing that I remember as a Christmas gift, I think it was like not too far before Christmas, man. The Ninja Turtles came out here live, and my parents took me to see the Ninja Turtles live. And ever since then, I just always had a attachment to the Ninja Turtles. Even to this day, like the Ninja Turtles is still my thing, man. And also, one of the best Christmas gifts that I got was, I'm a cowboy fan, but shout out to my guy Steven Chapman, man, over at Mad Fresh Designs. He gave me a Michael Vick jersey. And Michael Vick, the jersey he gave me was the Eagles jersey.
Yeah.
I hate the Eagles. I like Michael Vick, but I hate the Eagles. I'm like, man, why would you give me a Michael Vick? So he gave me, say, bro, I got you the Michael Vick jerseys because everyone counted Michael Vick out. And just like Michael Vick, man, you always show up and prove everybody wrong. So I got you to sign Michael Vick jersey. So the reason I'm saying this is because I've always had a more of a attachment toward things that meant something versus things that's just being sold on TV. I've always just had that view that it's going to be there later.
And I love that you said that. The real value in any item, who cares what it is, it could be a cup or a watch or anything. The real value in that was the relationship behind the person that gave it to you,
Exactly.
and the meaning of the appreciation of that relationship when they gave you the thing. So that's something I wanted to talk about in this show, was that we, as a society, as a culture, we have lost our way. We have lost our vision of what's truly important, what's truly valuable, and it's each other.
That's right.
It's the relationships that we build together, our families, our friends, not just blood family, but our family are people who we can relate to commonly on a daily basis or on a regular basis, and hold true and honest conversations with. Right. That's where our value really lies. And we get ourselves in this mess by focusing on a TV, or focusing on our phones, or focusing on Facebook. Thank y'all for tuning in. TikTok, Twitter, whatever it may be, Fox News, whatever it may be that people are watching. We lose sight of reality and the people next to us. And we become trapped in these commercial realms of advertising and obligation. Right.
we let those things tell us what's most important.
Yes.
Instead of asking people, even the kids in your family, I mean, they may be still in barely double digit, but something's important to them. And so when you ask them, well, what do you like these days? What's important to you? And there may be a gift associated with that of some sort. Maybe it's certain style of clothing. Maybe they're looking for, to kind of build that identity. Okay, we can work on that. But I don't think it has to just be a stimulant. I think it can be a compliment.
Yes, there you go.
To what they want to be.
And what I would encourage anyone out there that especially parents, but even if it's not a parent relationship with a child, whatever you're going to do, if you want to do something for a loved one, for a holiday or a friend or whatever it might be, give them something with meaning.
Yeah.
Yes. That's going to be more memorable. That's going to be permanent. That's going to create a bond around whatever that item is or whatever that service or act of love was. It's going to carry lasting meaning and purpose. And it could actually bring change, positive change to that person's life. And that, in my opinion, should be our focus right now anyway.
Right.
Is coming together and helping one another more so than getting somebody the newest iPhone for Christmas or giving somebody a new, whatever the new widget might be for the moment.
So I met this family some years back, and there was an older matriarch type, and she was starting to notice this trend of just a living room full of just stuff, gifts, and the kids were in sensory overload. And so I guess she saw it one too many times. So her pushback was she got the adults together. And now this is going back a few years, but she got the adults together. She goes, 2 things I want to do. And I want to see if you'll do it with me. And I thought, okay, here we go. And the first thing was, she said, no matter what toys you buy, take one of those toys and we're going to give to another family. So if it's a toy for a girl, we're going to take that and try to find a similar age girl or a boy or whatever. That was the second thing is sometime either before Christmas or right around it or right after, we're all going to go and we're going to volunteer. And so they found a place for them to actually become the spirit of Christmas rather than the giving rather than the getting. And then in addition to that, she said about a year or so later, she actually came up with this idea to take an amount of money. So instead of buying that one more gift, put that in a kitty, and then they also went and found a family. Yeah. And I thought, man, she at some point, I guess, because she was older, so it wasn't her kids, it was looking at the grands. And she's like, we're starting a whole nother trend, and we got to break this trend.
I love that.
Yes. So it wasn't against the gifts, it was bringing something along with it to make it more than just the kid opening another, tearing into another package. They got to get in the car and go and participate.
Absolutely.
And man, my thing, and I hate doing this to your podcast, bro. But my thing is a lot of these issues come from people not just practicing biblical principle. We look too, and that's crazy. Our Sunday school lesson was about this. We look too much at the world and worldly things, whether it's the commercials or whatever the case is. But we look at these things and you start feeling certain ways because you took your eyesight off of what God is telling you. And, because God is telling you be anxious for nothing. I tell you that charity starts at home. So you learn how to treat one another if you just look in the Bible. You learn how to handle your business. If you just look, you learn how to treat your wife. If you just read the Bible, man, if you have a connection with God, you don't feel the pressures of this world. His peace surpasses all understanding. So, when everybody else is all in the uproar, man, it's like, that's why I tell you, even though I don't follow certain politicians and stuff, I don't get caught up in the politic world because it's like, it really has no bearing in my life. Like, God is the ruler of my life, so I'm gonna always be taken care of. So because of that, when everyone else is in the uproar, I'm chilling. And so I think that keeps anxiety, depression, and all that other stuff away.
Absolutely. And I don't want you said, I hate to do this to your podcast. You were, all I've got on my mind, my next thought that I'm going to say aligns perfectly with what you just said.
For sure.
So you didn't do anything to apologize for. But what I want to say is back to what both of you said.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the spirit of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a fascinating thing about it. We have, as the premise of this podcast, this episode is about the trappings of giving and expecting and being obligated to give gifts and spend money. We focus on the three wise men that visited Jesus and brought gifts. That's a lot of what people use as their excuse for that's why we give gifts. But that's not what it was about. They brought gifts in appreciation because God sent his only son,
yes, sir,
in the flesh form to us. God gave first to us.
Yes,
that's what
those gifts that the wise men brought were just to show their appreciation. It wasn't about them earning his love.
Yeah,
they were just appreciative that God showed them, here's my son. The spirit of Christmas is about giving of yourself.
Yes.
It's about giving of your love, giving from a place of internal abundance, not of financial spending.
Yes.
It's about investing of yourself into everyone you love around you.
Right.
And even who you may not love.
Yeah.
I mean, what a more beautiful way
that's so true.
to show the love of Christ than by giving of yourself to someone who can do nothing for you.
Right.
That's someone who you may not know.
That's why I enjoyed what you said. I thought that was so great of a thing for her to do, because she's seen where that family was going, and it's like we got to get back to the basics. And I think that's what we have to do as a society. We got to get back to the basics, man. It ain't about the Christmas gifts per se. It's about, like you say, showing love to one another, appreciating what was done for us by God, and moving forward with that type of love in the world and society, and being up for one another. So that's what Christmas is about. And I think what she did was great, because she just brought that family line back to the origins of what it's about, and not allowing them to get caught up in worldly things.
For sure. And when do we get out of balance? We get out of balance when we overemphasize one thing over the others. So to bring more balancing things back in, that way I'm not with that overemphasis. That's going to wear me out, if you will. And in the early part of this particular broadcast, we talked a little bit about the depression of the season. And I think a lot of that comes from the man-made deficit between trying to aspire to something that is not even realistic. We're creating these unrealistic expectations and all these things, and of just acquisition. I want to get it. And so that's almost like taking a running leap from a platform. And so now we have this deficit. We have this depression. And so when we land, we're going to be that much more, I guess, sad or discouraged, and maybe even unappreciative when it's all over.
When you land, you'd be that much further away from hope, from faith, from truth. Because you jumped in a place of untruth. Towards a place of unfaith. And you made yourself unsafe.
Right. Yes.
So true.
If I don't feel safe, I either need to resolve what made me feel unsafe, which is ideal. The less than ideal is to then try to create an experience, from a get or a gather or some collection that's going to make me feel better. And that's just where we can get into some terrible habits. For example, and to kind of bring hopefully a little humor, I was talking to a friend the other day, and her friends were all going to go to this some kind of a Christmas market thing that's in their little area, and all these crafts and these people selling things. And I looked at her, I go, "Are you interested in going?" She goes, "No." She goes, "Why would I want to buy one more thing to bring in my house when I ain't got room for the stuff I have?"
Right.
But here these people are going to go out and bring 4, 5, or 6 things back home into their house. I said, "And to put it where?" She goes, "Exactly. That doesn't make any sense to me." I'm not saying it wouldn't be kind of fun to go look at the crafts and look at some of people's talents and art and what have you, but to bring it home, to put it where? I thought, man, that's actually a pretty good reasoning right there to not go out and buy one more thing.
What this made me think of, man, and I'm not against Christmas gifts at all.
No.
So I wanted to say that, but my grandparents, especially on my mom's side, well, both set of grandparents, but I'm particularly talking about the ones on my mom's side, man. They were probably some of the most influential people in my life. They took care of the whole family, right? And I'm sitting here thinking, I never thought of this, man. I don't think they ever gave me a Christmas gift.
And you never felt without. You
Exactly.
never felt less important or anything like that.
At all.
They showed you love.
Exactly. They love, principles, how to work together as a family. They showed me what family is about. And they raised us in church as well. So when you think on it, it's like, man, the best times, it wasn't even about a Christmas gift. We got so much through life.
Yes.
Like we didn't need a Christmas. Like our parents took care of that, but they I don't know what they brought to the table. Just them, who they are, was the gift.
Man, that's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
I'm glad you shared that story.
For sure.
So I want to address something else because we've skirted around the topic of depression. And at this time of year, you know, Chuck, you specialize in grief counseling, and you deal with a lot of people that deal with a lot of loss. And at this time of year, there's a lot of grief.
Yes.
Naturally so. Because at this time of year, you start longing for loved ones, you start remembering things and times, and that type of depression, for lack of a better way to put it, is natural, normal, and not evil and not bad. There's nothing wrong with you if you feel down because you've lost a loved one. There's nothing wrong with you because you feel grief in a holiday season. So don't ever let anyone make you feel less than or like there's something wrong with you or you should just get over it.
Right.
Because you feel that extra bit of anxiety and extra feeling of grief and extra weight on you at a holiday season because there's a void there in your life. And that void you're going to have to deal with, and you're going to have to learn how to compartmentalize that and how to move forward in life. But don't let anyone else make you feel judged because of it. That's totally unfair. I did want to talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Chuck, I don't know if you've got any tools that might help people deal with that type of depression at this time of year.
Sure. Well, first thing I would want our viewers to know is our measure of grief and our measure of love are they're equal. So I only grieve what I love. I don't grieve what I don't love.
Right.
And so, and I don't mean to seem we're unempathetic people, but we see tragedy all the time. But that's not our people. We can come alongside, but somebody's directly connected. So the holidays tend to remind us of that, you know, that and our schedules are designed, I think, to even build that relationship up. And there's going to be a measure of loss. That's natural. People will pass on. And of course, sometimes it's not that classic, the older member of our family. Sometimes they're younger, and I get that. It makes it harder, and you will get through this. And then in this year, hopefully will be just a little more difficult because next year won't. It'll be a little better and a little better and a little better. And there's a few things that folks can do. But we tend to, at this time of year, we work a little less. We're a little less scheduled. We're a little less in demand. And that opens us up to then collect with other people. Well, then you start noticing, you know, the people who are missing. So some of my suggestion I often tell people is, how can we involve these folks that they're not naturally in this world, they're more spiritually, they're in our hearts. How do you involve them? Well, I think making sure to honor them, mention them. That's where pictures come from. There's stories. If they were classic pawpaws and mawmaws, they probably had little and isms that we like to repeat. It makes it funny, makes it for good family tradition. Involve them, especially with the littles, because their memory list is less. And so you take them aside and you say, you see that picture right there? That's where me and your pawpaw went and did. And they're like, oh, okay. They're already now passing on the story. And we're storytellers. That's what we mentioned in scripture. It's storytelling. That's what we do. So involve them. Try to bring as much joy. And remember, life is one big balance. If you have sadness, it's because you've had happiness. If you've had joy, it's because you've had some despair. That's how life works. Life works in a balance. So we don't want to stay in the more down, desperate places. Try to do some counterbalance. And I think you'll find at the end of it, you'll be proud of yourself to know that you did good things in honor of good people with that next generation that didn't get that same chance. But they'll leave this Christmas feeling definitely involved. One of the things we started noticing, and the University of Houston studied this, that a lot of teenagers were going through some terrible depression with some pretty dramatic endings. I won't go too graphic on our show, but one of the things they noticed that a huge portion of those kids, 60 plus to 70% of them, they didn't live around their native family. They were from other parts of the country or other parts of the world. And this is a little bit before our ideal connectedness, which would be, FaceTimes and those sorts of things. Before those things came online, they just didn't see them anymore, except for maybe a little bit of letter writing and phone calling. So that disconnect also contributed to the despair. So if you want to counterbalance depression in the season, get connected.
I really got a question for you, more than something to add. So, what would you say to a person that's dealing with depression and they like to stay in a depressed state?
They like it?
Because I asked it for a reason. I know a person that deals with depression. I struggle with helping this person. To me, it just seems like they get in a depressed state and they like to stay there. It's like they like to dwell in that thing that keeps them in that mindset.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, a lot of times what happens is a person develops a habit, a pattern, a pattern of thought, a pattern of behavior, and that those patterns are comfortable, for lack of a better way to say it. And what becomes familiar, they start to identify with it.
Yeah.
At some point in time, they begin to adopt the idea that this is who I am.
Yeah.
And they may even adopt the idea, if they're in depression, that this is what they deserve.
Yes.
And they may believe that without this, I'm nothing.
Yes. That's it.
And that's an enormously difficult paradigm shift to make. As someone who has experienced that myself, I can tell you that it is extraordinarily difficult to see out of the fog because the fog is so thick.
So what would you do to encourage that person to do something different to snap that cycle?
I don't know that there's anything that necessarily snaps a cycle, but with any habit, with any behavior that becomes habitual, in order to change it, you have to replace it. You can't just stop it. So if I could suggest anything at all, it would be an attempt to make small adjustments at a time, small adjustments to help with self-awareness. At some point in time, the hope would be that this person who's experiencing this depression, living in this depression, could somehow step out of themselves and look back and see who they really are and what they're doing, as if they're outside their own body, outside their own mind. In their imagination, look at themselves and say, that's not really who I am. It's what I'm doing. And if it's what I'm doing, I can do something different. It has to be a realization in themselves. They can't be told. Unfortunately, they can be brought to the water,
but you can't make them.
But you can't force them to swallow it.
Right. So I had an experience, and like I say, I told you this before when I was a guest on here, that when I look back over my life, God been with me my whole life. So that type of situation is tough for me because for me, I've been blessed with revelations from God that caused me to turn. I went through a situation where I was looking at a relative of mine that was dealing with addiction. And I never judged them. I was just trying to understand, how can you do this and have these results over and over and over. And then what I realize is this person is dealing with something and they don't know how to deal with it properly. So they go to this. And because they go to this happens. And then when this happens, it bring them back to this.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's back to this, they go back to that. And it's like, it's a vicious cycle.
That's why they call addiction a cycle.
But then God showed me that I deal with the same things.
Yeah.
It might not be addiction, as in drug addiction, but I follow a pattern also. And I'm like, man, I never looked at that. So it caused me to change my ways in how I handle things. It caused me to have to learn patience and how to deal with things without anger. And that's what I wanted for this friend of mine. Is like, God revealed it to me, and that's what made me turn. But it has to be something. I don't know if I should just sit with them and try to.
Well, think about this. When you were in your cycles of difficulty, could a person outside of you come to you and told you that you were wrong? Could they have told you?
No.
So think about that.
Exactly.
What changed that God could give you a revelation? What changed? I'm asking you. What changed?
Well, me thinking on.
Stop. Your thinking changed. No one changed your thinking. You changed your mind.
Yeah.
That's what changed.
Yeah.
And this person, they need someone not to accept their behavior, not to accept their depression, but to accept them as a person.
Yeah.
And love them through it.
Yes.
And you can tell them that story. This is what happened to me. I'm not saying this is what happened to you. You can tell them that.
Yeah.
And go through the story you just told and tell them, after I learned how to change my mind and change my behavior, God gave me revelations.
I'm going to try that, bro.
And all you're doing is giving what's in you.
Yeah.
You can't change what's in them.
Exactly.
Give it a try. It's worth a try.
It's most definitely worth a try. I appreciate that.
One of first of all, addiction is real.
Yes.
And we respect
Absolutely.
the fact that it exists.
Yes.
And I use the metaphor that addiction is like a predator bird. And here we are, just this little defenseless creature, eating grass out there in the pasture. And down comes, and boy, once those talons get sunk in, you got two choices. And when the predator bird's taking you up to his nest,
none of it's feeling good.
None of it's feeling good. And it's dinner, and you squirm and you wiggle and you try to get out of certain situations, and it just sinks it in deeper. And so now you have two choices. I can make the predator bird so, I guess, nervous about its own safety that it will let me go. So I'm wiggling and I'm squirming and I'm trying to get out. And the bird's like, well, man, dinner's not worth all of this now. But when I do it, those talons are tearing me up, man. So there's always scars when we come out of these things.
Not only that, but if it lets go of you, you got a fall you got to make.
That's right. And with a sudden stop. And you will likely survive, but you will come out damaged. Okay. So the question I often ask folks when they have these habits, they come in the office and I'll say, okay, tell me, consequentially, what has this caused? And do you still want that cause? What has happened, as a result? I mean, here's your family member sitting here and they're telling me it's been money, it's been health issues, it's been maybe their freedom, other things like this. I said, so these are some of the consequential causes that cause and effect, if you will. So is that something that you want? No. Okay. Now their mind is open to the revelation. They're open to be revealed. Now, are you ready for some next suggestions? Yes. And that's when if they're open to it, or they may blow you off and say, I don't want to talk about it, but with a healthy question, the deposit's been made.
Well, here's the thing, man, with stuff like that, you get to a place to where you don't want the outcome, but like you said, you feel like you deserve the outcome. So you have to be careful what you take as reality, because when you feel like that's your reality, I'm destined for this outcome. As a man, you start to man up and face it. But you got to understand that it don't have to be that way. And another thing that happened for me is I had decided that I wanted something different. Like I was fed up with what was going on. And me being fed up with myself made me say, I don't know what this new life is. But whatever that is, it got to be better than this. So,
and that could be its own motivation.
Yes, because like I've suffered enough in this. So if I suffer to do something different, then so be it. I'd rather suffer doing something different than stay suffering doing this. Cause I know where this is gonna end.
There's a phrase that a lot of addiction treatment uses, and I kind of like it. And it goes like this: until the pain of remaining the same becomes greater than my perceived pain of change, one will not change. So meaning until whatever I'm doing hurts me bad enough, I'm not going to stop. So evidently you came to that realization like, hey, whatever I'm doing is hurting me more than I care to have. So whatever's coming next has got to be better than this. So the pain of remaining the same became definitely greater than the pain of change.
Yes.
And the amazing, I'm sorry.
And you changed.
Yeah. Something I want you to hear. If you don't hear anything else that we talked about today, I am proud that you changed.
Thank you.
And I want you to know that you became a light into the world because of that change. You became a witness, and you may be the only person that can reach your friend because of your story.
Thank you, bro.
You may be that light that they need in their moment of darkness. So don't be afraid. Don't hesitate. Offer your story to them. For sure. I think that's beautiful.
There's something to be said for credibility.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that.
Well, guys, I appreciate y'all, and I think this has been a really fun episode. Do y'all have anything else you'd like to add for the audience before we go?
No, I just hope everybody does have a fantastic Christmas holiday season. This is an ideal time to reconnect with the things that are most important. And as Rob mentioned earlier in our broadcast, it's the people, it's the family. And yes, there may be some gift exchange as mementos of appreciation, but I believe we made our point today that it's not all about that. And if you do find yourself down, please seek help. You can start with your spiritual leader, start with a good friend, and if need be, reach out to a professional.
Reach out to us on Facebook. Hit us up at Pursuit of Purpose.
There you go.
We're here for you if we can help you in any way.
Absolutely. If we're not the ones, we'll help you find them.
Yeah.
What you got?
Hey, all I got is keep God first and keep pushing, man. That's pretty much it. I don't really have nothing else to offer. That's
very good. Very good. Well, I'm going to add that I hope you guys out there make memories over making purchases. Definitely, give gifts to each other, but give meaningful gifts. Give the gift of time. Give the gift of your devotion, your loyalty, your energy, your conversation, your truth. Be who you are and value everyone that comes into your life. Guys, thank you very much for allowing us to become a part of the pursuit of your purpose. This has been our first live episode of What Are We Doing? Thank y'all for joining us. I hope y'all have a great day.
For sure.